Hello and welcome to another TLDR UK video. This is what the House of Commons looks like at the moment. Well, due to social distancing, it actually looks more like this. But in theory, this is the makeup of the Commons. You're going to be familiar with a lot of these colours and these parties, the largest two being the Conservatives and Labour, with the SNP also picking up a majority of Scottish seats. There's also a bunch of smaller parties, as we discussed in our recent video on fringe parties. However, you might be shocked by the party who are currently the fourth largest in the House of Commons, currently holding 26 seats in the Commons, 13 in the Lords, 7 in Scotland, 11 in Wales and 7 in London. Which party is it though? Well, it's the Cooperative Party. Who? Well, yeah, exactly. If you live in one of these constituencies, you have a cooperative MP potentially without even knowing it. So let's unpack what's going on, who the cooperatives are, what they stand for, and how they possibly managed to get so large, but yet remain so hidden. If you're a fan of the channel, you might know this already, but TLDR UK is actually just one of our channels, with us having others focused on US, European and global news. If you want to feel more informed and connected to world news, you ought to check out TLDR Global, and more specifically, the Global Summary, our weekly rundown of the biggest news events around the world. The latest episode, which tackles Israel-Palestine, Europe's rejecting of Biden's vaccine plans, and Colombia's ongoing protests, comes out right after this video, so there's a link in the description. Check it out and get yourself in the know. Anyway, back to the video and the mysterious Cooperative Party. Let's start with exactly what they stand for. After all, considering they have 26 seats in the House of Commons, it's important to understand why they're there and what they advocate for. The answer is, unfortunately, a little disappointing. They stand for cooperatism, which, let's face it, we could have already guessed. This is the belief that private companies should be owned by their members, and it's been claimed that the movement began to stand the principles of capitalism on their head, because instead of capital employing labour, labour would employ capital, and the cooperatives would operate not in the interest of profit, but for each and every one of its members. One of the biggest cooperative businesses in the UK is the Cooperative Group, who some of you will know as the supermarket. As the Co-op Group and Co-op Party both stand for the same principles and ostensibly have the same name, you won't be too surprised to hear the group funds the party. In fact, in 2015, a vote was held by the members and a motion was passed, allowing the group to continue funding the party to the tune of £1 million. In addition to believing that workers, not private shareholders, should own the businesses they work in, the party also stands for fan-owned football clubs, expanding community energy, a cooperative Green New Deal, introducing a right to food, putting public utilities like water and electricity into public ownership, and introducing a new law to protect public-facing workers from violence. So that's what they stand for and roughly where they get their money from, but why doesn't anyone know about them? Well, there's a technicality that we haven't mentioned yet. While it's true that they have 26 seats in the House of Commons, this is only really a technicality, and that's because the Cooperative Party has an electoral pact with 26 Labour MPs, meaning that these MPs represent both the Labour Party and the Cooperative Party. Therefore meaning that no MPs are sitting in the House of Commons who solely represent the Cooperative Party. To understand the Cooperative Party's relationship with Labour, we need to explain a bit of history. The Cooperative Party itself was founded in 1917, due to what The Guardian has claimed was the hostility of the Conservatives towards the co-op principle. While this happened following the creation of the party, a good example of this hostility was Conservative Chancellor Neville Chamberlain's decision to introduce a divvy tax on the bonus paid by co-op shops. This was followed by a protest against the tax, which was ignored by the government. And as such, the Co-op Party realised that on their own, they weren't strong enough to stand against the interests of private businesses and the Conservatives. So in 1927, 10 years after their formation, they created an alliance with the Labour Party. This was a big moment of change for the Co-op Party, as they were able to get cooperators into Parliament. By 1945, 23 Labour co-op MPs have made their way into the Commons, one of whom had been the party chairman. This pact also meant that the Co-op Party held some sway in Labour Party politics ever since the merger in 1927. In fact, the Co-op Party managed to get Labour to introduce some of their policies when they were in government. For example, in the 1960s, the Labour Party introduced mutually owned cooperative housing schemes. They also introduced consumer rights legislation, both of which came from the Co-op Party. Nowadays, things are largely the same. The Electoral Pact still exists, and in a document agreed to in 2014, the rules state that cooperative parliamentary candidates shall be nominated to and selected by the constituency Labour parties under the rules of the Labour Party, but shall sign the prescribed form containing the following declaration. I accept a nomination as a parliamentary candidate of the Cooperative Party in running association with the Labour Party. If elected to Parliament, I undertake to join the Parliamentary Labour Party and accept and act in harmony with the standing orders of the Parliamentary Labour Party for the time being in force. For ordinary people though, in order to be a member of the Co-op Party, you don't need to be a member of the Labour Party. This is for people who sign up and pay membership fees. Co-op members can be members of the Labour Party too if they want, but rules bar them from being members of any other party. Some big names in the Labour Party have actually been elected as both Labour and Co-op MPs. This includes the Shadow Secretary of State for Health and Social Care and the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. In fact, the Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, is also a member of the Co-op Party. However, while they have been elected as a member of the Co-op Party, what does this actually mean in practice? Do they act any differently to other Labour MPs? Well, luckily Sean Kippen, writing for the University of Bristol, had a quick look through the background of Labour Co-op Party MPs to see if they had any previous background in co-op politics and whether they continued to represent that party once elected to office. He found that most of the Co-op Party MPs had some kind of grounding in the cooperative movement prior to their selection as a Labour co-op candidate. He then brought up the fact that one Labour co-op candidate had been an employee of the Cooperative Retail Society, and another led the UK's first cooperative council. As for whether they represent the Co-op Party once elected, Kippen found that all Labour co-op MPs mentioned the Co-op Party, mutualism, and individual cooperative enterprises. While this certainly isn't a deep-level analysis of the MPs, it does give an indication that co-op MPs don't simply drop their co-op credentials once elected. The next question to ask here is, why do MPs stand as members of both parties? Well, the answer is quite simple, because they believe in the principles of both parties. Both the Labour Party and the Co-op Party believe in some sort of socialism, and both believe in putting individuals over corporations. There are some key things that the Co-op Party chooses to focus on more than Labour, notably issues related to mutualism and cooperatism, which Co-op MPs may also agree need more emphasis within the Labour Party. Nonetheless though, apart from these slight ideological differences, there doesn't seem to be much difference between being a co-op Labour MP and simply a Labour MP, and the former doesn't seem to be any more electable. And the fact that so few people even know about the Co-op Party means that it's not even likely that you're appealing to two different audiences either. Additionally, co-op candidates need to go through the exact same application process as standard candidates to be Labour MPs, so it doesn't help with the application process either. Therefore, subscribing to the co-op ideology seems to be the only real reason you'd stand for both parties. Talking of subscribing, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to TLDR News. Not only do we publish a lot of explainers about politics and current affairs, but we also really subtly and smoothly fit in our promos at the end of videos. They're so subtle that you barely even know that we're asking you to subscribe and help us out. While you're at it, you can also back us on Patreon. Special thanks to those who do, and if you want your name at the end of videos too, then you can click the link in the description.